Hello, my name is Dwayne Manzanares. This video is for my USU Theater Class 4320, Personal Story. A few years ago, I was asked by Xerox to go to a training in North Shore, Michigan, just right off the Lake Michigan area. And so when we were making arrangements for the flights and stuff to go there, I noticed I could only choose Delta. I didn't know that at the time that Delta was the only service that little airport, but that's the way it works. So I left Salt Lake City, I flew to Detroit. Detroit, I got on a little tiny plane. This plane was probably 15 passengers at most, but we only had about 5 or 6 of us on the flight. We all took our seats. The pilot came back from the cockpit, introduced himself, moved us around to different seats so that he could balance out the weight on the plane. Then he handed the first passenger a little basket of goodies and said, take what you want, pass it on back. We fly out of Detroit, we fly over to North Shore, the little airport there, and just a few minutes out from landing, the pilot comes over to the PA and he says, we've had a lot of moisture and freezing winds since this is the first week of January. When we land the plane, it's going to be very icy. We lower the steps. We want you to hold hands as you walk into the terminal so that people can be more stable. Didn't think much of it. I mean, I never held hands on an airplane before when you get down at the bottom so you can walk in, but it's a little airport. So we get there, we land, there's this little lady with the red things waving us in to park the plane. She lowers the steps, we all walk down, hold each other's hands and walk in. As you walk into Terminal 1, it's a very small room, maybe 10 by 10, about 5 or 6 chairs, a podium for them to take the tickets, and a little hallway sign that says this way to baggage claim. So you walk through that little room, the 7 of us kind of walk through there, we turn down the little hallway, it's about 10 feet long, another sign points us to the right. We walk in, turn to the right, come around the corner, and I expect to see some kind of carousel, some kind of little device that moves luggage along so people can pick it up and then go on over to rental cars. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing in this little space. Probably another 10 by 15 space, if that. And there's double doors there. And then a few minutes later, the lady with the parka comes pushing this cart through. And it looks like the kind you would get at Home Depot. A little orange thing that has bags on it. We walk over, we grab our bag. And then I walk over to the rental car, and it consists of 2 men with TV trays with a sign on the front that said, one said National where I was going, one said Hertz or Avis or something, and they had a laptop. I walked up to the guy, was reaching to get the wallet, get the ID, to do all the paperwork. He says, "You must be Mr. Manzanares." I said, "Yes, I am." He goes, "I've got your car ready, everything's taken care of, you don't need to worry about signing anything, just go ahead and go on out and get your car." He did apologize that there was still going to be snow on the car because he brushed it off, but it had been snowing all day and it probably had some more on it. I walk outside, get on the curb, and I push the little panic fob thing to get the thing to blink so I know which car was mine, because he just said it's out there in the parking lot. The parking lot had maybe 15 cars in it. It wasn't a lot of cars. So sure enough, 2 cars light up. Well, I look over and Avis guy had come out and he had pushed his too. And we stopped him and I said, "Okay, you go first." He found his car, I found my car. And since I was in that arrival mode and I was using all the signs to get to the bags, get to the car, to go to the airport, I didn't look at the airport very closely. I wish I had, but I didn't. So I do my training. 3 days later, I come back to this little tiny airport, park my car out there in one of the spots. There's nothing designated for anybody. And he said, "When you come back in, just drop your keys in the little box that has National on it, and it'll be locked in there, and we'll take care of it from that point on." And I had to fill up with gas before I got there because they didn't have any fuel at their airport for cars. So I went ahead and did that, and I walk around this little wall, and sure enough, where you go through the processing to get back on the plane is absolutely the smallest thing I've ever seen. There's some roped area where you walk back and forth to get to the counter, 1 counter, Delta, 1 kiosk, 1 man for TSA. He's a little tiny guy with a white mustache and glasses and white hair. He looked like a little Wilford Brimley, and his little machine that he ran the stuff through, the x-ray machine. And so instead of walking back and forth to get to the front, I walked around it. And when I got to the front, I was just kind of standing there waiting for her to do some paperwork or whatever and call me. And she goes, "Would you please stand behind the white line?" I looked down and I had his back up about 3 inches, stand behind the white line. So I'm standing there behind the white line, waiting. I got my bags and looking around. I'm the only guy there. There's just Wilford Brimley, TSA guy, her, and me. And she goes, next. And I go to step forward. She says, hold on, have you used the kiosk? I said, no, I haven't. She goes, well, I wish you'd use the kiosk first and then get back in line. Well, I took a step to the side, put the credit card in, pushed all the information, one bag. It spit out my paper. I stepped back behind the white line and I stood there. I waited. I waited a good minute, minute and a half. And finally she goes, next. And I step forward. I give her the paperwork, my ID, all that stuff. And she goes through the whole checklist. Has anybody approached you with wanting you to carry something for them onto this plane? And I look around. I'm the only guy there. Nobody's approached me. Have you had your bag with you all the time? Did you pack your bag? You know that checklist that you hear. Well, she's going down every one of those things, asking everything and wanting a complete confirmation. No head shaking. She wanted yes or no's. And I look over at Wilford Brimley. He's got his arms folded. He's just shaking his head like, oh, I've heard this thing a million times. But this lady looked perfect for a Delta Air agent. She looked like she was ready to make it to the big times, and she was not going to miss anything on her checklist. She went through it all. I got done. She made a statement about when the sheriff arrives, we'll get everybody screened through security. And will you take your bag over to TSA so they can process it and I can put it in the cart for when the plane arrives. So I do that. I go over there and I give it to the TSA guy. He's just shaking his head. He hasn't said a word. I don't even know if he can talk. Goes up over the top. He looks at it. It comes off the other side. She puts it on her little cart that looks like the one from Home Depot. And then I just go and sit down in these chairs. There's like 4 chairs, maybe 5 chairs on that wall. There might have been a couple more, but they were just folding chairs, kind that you unfold all the time. But anyway, I'm sitting there. And this is why I wish I had looked around when I got there. I sat there for a good 30, 40 minutes. Nobody to people watch. I read all my stuff. I was looking at my BlackBerry, doing all those things. And finally, another man, Jones, comes on into the place. And he puts his key in the rental thing, and he walks around the little thing just like I did. And she takes him through the exact same routine. The whole step to the side, come back, ask all the questions, TSA guy shaking his head, the whole thing. He comes over and he sits down with one chair in front of me, and he goes, did you have to do that? I said, exactly the same thing. It's amazing. That was probably the most entertainment I've had in the last 40 minutes, because I went through it, and I get to watch you go through it. We sat there, we talked for a few minutes, and the flight's probably 15 minutes from leaving. Maybe that. It's 10 to 15 minutes. And then 2 ladies come walking in. One in her 60s, one in her 40s. Looked like mother-daughter kind of thing. They went up with their little handheld bags. They didn't have any major luggage. They did the rope back and forth. They talked to the lady like they had known her for years, and she was a frequent flyers. Asked about the kids and the dogs and everything. So the TSA guy got off his counter and off his little stool, got their bag, ran it through the thing, said he'd take care of it. They came over and the guy scooted over so they could share the chairs. We talked for a few minutes, and then the plane landed. You heard it land, pull in, the lady goes out, puts on her parka, and she goes on out. I'm sure she was out there waving the plane in, and then she brought a cart over, and people came down the little hallway and waited over by baggage claim, and they picked up their bags and they left, and there was nobody for a rental car, I guess, at this time, because I hadn't seen any rental guys with their little TV trays. So we're sitting there. Plane's outside. Lady's done her stuff, put our bags on, brought their bags off. She's already back inside, warming up, waiting to do check-in at the gate. And we're waiting. The sheriff never shows. I mean, maybe 15, 20 minutes past our flight, time to get on the flight to leave. And the little TSA guy goes, do you think we should call the sheriff department? And you hear her say, no, we'll give him a few more minutes. Within a couple of minutes of that, you hear the car pull up right outside. The sheriff jumps out, comes to the door. She goes, sheriff's here. TSA lady, or the other lady, gets on the PA system and says, now that the sheriff has arrived, we're going to go ahead and start our screening process through security, and we'll have you go right onto the plane because the plane is ready for boarding. So sure enough, we get the 4 of us get up. The ladies go through first. We follow along. We put the bag on, the shoes on, all the stuff you normally do. And the sheriff's apologizing. He had to write a ticket, and it turned into something else, and it just took up a lot more time he planned on. He apologized, and none of his deputies were nearby that could come and take over for him, so we just had to wait. We go through security, we go through the little thing. She's standing on the other side with her parka. She tears our stub stuff. The 4 of us get on the plane, and away we go. That's my story. Thank you for listening to it. If you ever go to North Shore, Definitely enjoy and take some reading material and show up only about 10 minutes before the flight has to leave. Thank you very much. Bye.